Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Reiner, your host of the Independent Doctors of Pahrump, a TV show that airs Monday night on Channel 46. I want to remind you that I am a practicing physician in Pahrump, and I'm an independent practitioner, which means I am not bought by any insurance company or corporate medicine. We provide the highest level of care. We have nurse practitioners. We have other physicians, specialists who come to our office. Please come visit me. I'm at 1316 East Calvada here in the heart of Pahrump. Thank you. Okay, well, welcome back. And we have, I guess, Chuck on the line. Chuck.
Hey, Doc, I would have called you earlier, but that guy Ray keeps hogging the phone.
Yeah, well, we've been talking to him about that, Chuck.
Anyway, let me give you my conspiracy view of the Zika virus.
Okay.
Depopulation. That's the name of the game. We got way too many people in the world, and the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and all those idiots are figuring out a way to get rid of the population. If there really is a Zika and it does cause that problem with the children, it's probably coming from the pesticides because, like most other diseases that are coming out, including Ebola, it's all coming from countries with incredible amounts of insecticides in their food chain, etc. So that's my conspiracy view of the subject of Zika.
Well, listen, I love the conspiracy theory, don't get me wrong. But what I think, and let me just throw this out there to you, what I think you're seeing is I think natural selection will take care of things like this, because what you're seeing is that overpopulation and the inability to control the waste and the economic and all the things that we're breeding. I mean, look at what we're doing. We're breeding people that are sucking on the institutional tit of the system. So basically, they don't want to do anything else. Yeah, you don't like that, but that's the God honest truth.
That's a great metaphor.
Yeah, but that in itself, you know, the overpopulation, meaning that you're crowding people into the space, and you're going into spaces that basically have not been opened up before. So it wasn't until we created this route over Africa, that we went into the jungle of Africa, that we allowed viruses and things like that that never would have come out into the public, came out in the public because we went into that area. So while I think they could easily, the H1N1 virus might have been something that someone actually construed, that's not the case. I mean, the genetics on these viruses, they can actually tell exactly where it came from, what animal it went into. Look at MERS. MERS is a great example. I mean, it comes from camels. I mean, but because we're going into those areas and that population is exploding, we're allowing those viruses that normally would never be we would never be exposed to. We are our own worst enemy because we create our own vectors for the dissemination of those diseases. Now, where does Zika come from? It might have been around for years in a small area.
I understand it has been around for years.
Yeah. And so because now we're so populated, we've created these breeding grounds for these viruses. So I don't know, Ray, I mean, Chuck, you tell me what you think about that. So.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. But to me, the fundamental issue is if there is overpopulation, because as you know, they're herding us into the urban areas. So even though the population is growing and growing, the space we're actually occupying is decreasing. Mm-hmm. And certainly the food change is becoming incredibly polluted through man-made pesticides and
Oh, I agree.
GMO food and everything else.
No, I agree there, but and that in a sense weakens our immune system may have its own part in that chain reaction in creating cancers and creating, but it's also a function of living longer. It's also a function of new horizons, and there's no doubt that GMO foods and things of that nature. I mean, how else are you going to feed whatever the 7-8 billion the population? I mean, you have to create food sources that basically, look and smell good, but really aren't very good for you. And so, listen, I mean. I love the fact that they're using thermal imagery now on crops, because they can actually go in and they can actually look at crops and see where there might be an infestation. So they can actually, if they're going to use pesticides, they can use it locally rather than spreading it all over the entire crop. And they're only controlling a local outbreak. So I mean, that could be good for everybody in the long run. You have any other thoughts, Chuck?
No, I got a lot of them, but I don't want to become a Ray kind of guy.
Well,
one quick question: your sleep lab, any progress on that?
I'm actually meeting with people on Wednesday about that, Chuck.
Okay.
So we'll let you know.
Okay, great. I'll get off the phone so Ray can call back. Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, but that's a great topic about, I mean, and you could spend months and months about talking about, all these infestations. But I think the movie Contagion, okay.
Soylent Green.
Yeah, well, Soylent Green is a result of overpopulation, but Contagion was a very, very interesting movie because it exposed a lot of what happened in the global where it's so risk, where a person can be infected, they can be on the plane, they can infect numerous people, they can spread these viruses to numerous areas very, very rapidly and create a problem. Not to mention what they're doing in the labs and everything like that. Hello, Ray.
Yeah, you were just talking about feeding the world, and we got to do different things. I've been watching all these films that Chuck Augustine's been giving me, how you could feed the world on hemp, that this is a natural food source that can be with no pesticides or anything else. The whole world could be fed, and yet we're talking about GMOs and corn where people may suffer negative consequences. And with everything I've been seeing, I'm saying this is one thing that we really got to concentrate on. And I'm not talking necessarily about the marijuana part. The hemp, industrial hemp, has so many uses for it, and also as a plant, it has tremendous potential value as far as feeding people. So that's the one thing I want to point out. The second thing is almost every day that I'm at the courthouse, because I sit in as an observer, I hear the term MRSA into jail, MRSA into jail. People get out, they say, MRSA, there's MRSA in there. What is MRSA, and is it into jail, or is it just in hospitals, or what? If you could help me out with those two, and I'll open the line up for somebody else. Thank you very much.
Yeah, MRSA is methicillin-resistant Staph aureus is basically what it is. And
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, it is, but basically it's an opportunistic infection because MRSA basically wouldn't exist unless we created it by the overuse of antibiotics. But the number one cause for MRSA today is basically people they're too clean, believe it or not. Because you kill the natural staph epidermidis on your skin. The only reason opportunistic infections are allowed to become is because we create an avenue. Look at fungal infections, yeast infections, okay? Yeast infections grow because we kill the bacteria in our skin. So when you take an antibiotic, when a female takes an antibiotic and they get a vaginal yeast infection, it's because the antibiotics kill the natural bacteria in the vaginal flora, and then the yeast start to grow. So and the same thing can happen with MRSA or methicillin-resistant staph. we basically can use antibiotics. I mean, I love this story. This lady worked out at Front Sight, and she basically was handling cases of ammo, and she would use that lotion on her hand all the time because she just didn't like the dust and did everything else. Well, it's got cold, she got a runny nose, and she starts to rub her nose. Well, the next thing you know, she's got a huge staph infection on her face because she basically killed everything but what the methicillin resistance. So it's a very virulent organism. It lives in very small numbers, but if you create the opportunity for it to grow, it will grow. Now, in a jail, you may have, I don't know what the sanitary situations are in there, but that may be a different thing. So it's possible that you can have a very unclean situation, and you can get that. No, sometimes pets can carry MRSA, some dogs, but there's obviously no dogs in the jail, and there may be some inmates that may have it. But even I can't spread it to you. If I have MRSA here, that doesn't mean I'm going to give it to you. Okay, and so they may be using very potent antibacterial soaps because it's a jail situation, and actually creating the MRSA area by actually using very strong disinfectant soaps and creating this huge environment because you got a lot of crowded people in one area.
I'll have to look into it. I treat a lot of the prison employees in Alaska.
Yeah, but I know in a hospital situation, they're what they call nosocomial infections. Basically, you've got, considered a dome, you've got a ventilation system inside there, you've got antibiotics. People are getting antibiotics and they're being basically selected for resistant organisms. So if you get an infection in a hospital, it's much harder to treat because the bacteria have been exposed to very potent antibiotics.
Yeah, they're superbugs.
Yeah, they're superbugs. Well, the same is true of cancer. You have a 10 million cancer cells, and you give a chemotherapeutic agent, and it kills 9,990,000, but you still got 1,000 cancer cells that are resistant to the chemotherapeutic agent you just gave them. So the next treatment is even harder because everyone that could die died, but what's left are the strongest. The strongest survive. Survival of the fittest, whether it be bacteria, whether it be cancer, whether it be fungals, whether it be anything like that. This is what you create when you basically, overuse those things. So they have to be used very indiscriminately, short courses. That's why sometimes when people come in with infections, I give them 3 or 4 days of antibiotics. That's all I give them. I just give them enough for their immune system to catch up and hold the infection in check. You want to use very, very small amounts. So, well, time is up. Thank you, buddy.
It went fast tonight.
It did.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be back. Thanks, viewers, for calling in. We'll see you next week.